Thank you all for being here tonight. There are some folks in the room that I have not seen in quite some time. Mr. Hall, don't leave without getting a hug. Gotta give you a hug. My name is Jackie Metcalf, and I'm the founder and executive director of Texas Health and Environment Alliance. And tonight is a very special night. Today is a very special day indeed. It's our 9th birthday, 9 years since we became a 501c3 organization. All right, so I have a few things I'm going to go through on the history of THEA. And then tonight we're going to be presenting our Archie Bickley Award. We have a few award recipients, one of whom is not here yet, so hopefully she will arrive. And then I will be providing some updates on the San Jacinto River Waste Pit Superfund site and some of the other issues that we're currently working on in the area.
My first seizure was in 2010. It was a year later, in 2011, when I discovered that our water was making my family sick.
Can you make that louder?
I was shocked that we had not been notified by the city or government. I didn't want another family going through these painful experiences.
Uh-oh. I did something.
My first seizure was in 2010. It was a year later, in 2011, when I discovered that our water was making my family sick. I was shocked that we had not been notified by the city or government. I didn't want another family going through these painful experiences, and in 2015, I set out to fulfill this promise by forming THEA, Texas Health and Environment Alliance. We safeguard public health and protect your water by addressing environmental contaminants at the source, also known as Superfund sites. At THEA, we keep you informed about the safety of the environment in your community while holding the EPA and polluters accountable. We represent your voice to our government agencies locally and nationally, keeping our commitment to protect public health here in Texas and across our great nation. Whether it's for drinking, cooking, or having fun, water is part of our day-to-day lives. It's clear, and sometimes it's even odorless, and it's hurting so many Americans. We want to keep you informed about the quality of your water, and we can't do it without you. Every drop counts. Protect your family by visiting txhea.org.
I thought rather than talking to you about why we were founded and why we set out on the mission to protect public health and the environment, I'd start with that video. And then I want to go through some of our milestones and our accomplishments since 2015. Many of you in the room, I believe as I mentioned, have been here since before 2015. Some have been working on this longer than me, and thank you for those who paved the way before me. Since 2015, we've developed major programs for 3 different communities across Harris County that have been impacted by historical toxic waste sites. So now we're no longer only working in the communities around here. There's 2 additional communities as well. We've earned the support of over 60,000 community members. We've grown to a team of 6 staff members. We've developed and expanded our board of directors so that we can fill the gaps that we have within our team, and our board is 100% volunteer. And we've launched a council of community advisors to ensure that now that we're working in different parts of Harris County and not just a community I come from, that our efforts continue to be community-led. We've been featured in over 400 news stories. We've reviewed over 200,000 pages of technical documents. We've prompted 6 different cancer assessments from Texas Department of State Health Services. And for the cleanup of the San Jacinto River Waste Pit Superfund site, we earned the support of all of our regional congressional delegates from Harris County all the way to the coast. And one of our proudest accomplishments is securing one of the strongest dioxin cleanups in our nation. I don't even have the photos from when it first began, and my mom would probably say on our front porch. You know, we started in the first building, it wasn't our front porch, around one folding table. And every time we met, we set a goal to outgrow that venue. And then we moved to Four Corners Barbecue from there. Once we were filling that room to capacity, they were kind enough to let us meet there, we moved here to the community center. And we have filled this center beyond capacity. We've had standing room only out in the lobbies. And I'm gonna lean on all of you to bring your neighbors, talk to your friends in town, talk to those you work with. We need to get back to that level. We've watched our river and our communities transform. My family moved here because we wanted a life on the river. I grew up going to Banana Bend, sitting in a contaminated waterway. And I had no idea. When I was in college, I would go sit in the water, in the river, and read. Many of you here have stories like that and beyond. We've watched the community transform to one where nuisances and pollution events are commonplace. And that's a water sample from the river. We've seen and reported some pretty crazy things. We've watched failed attempts at securing the San Jacinto River Waste Pit Superfund site under a temporary cap. We watched as they recovered an 18-wheeler that barreled across the top of Interstate 10 and into the river, just missing the waste pit. We watched as they lightered, as they say, a barge off of the northern waste pit. Barge here in Tropical Storm Imelda, full barge, struck and beached on the waste pit. We watched as Hurricane Harvey ripped apart that tarp that they call a cap. Speaking of the cap, we've opposed containing this site in the river for over 10 years. We've even fought the fake community groups that were funded by the parties responsible for the site, both in the regulatory process and in court when they tried to bury me and the organization in legal documents and lawyers' fees and beyond. And so far we have been successful. We're still fighting them in court to this day, but so far we've been able to protect the things that we value. And ultimately, the EPA ruled in our favor. This is the former administrator of the EPA in Washington, D.C., signing the record of decision for full removal of the site, just as we had been advocating for. But none of this would have been possible if it weren't for our community. It's the community standing with us, beside us, behind us, that has allowed us to move forward and accomplish all of these things that we have. Many of the people here are up here or in this room. Some, unfortunately, have passed away. We have lost more community members to terrible deaths, early deaths, children we've lost over the years. And unfortunately, that's too common here in our communities. Going back through the photos from over the years to prepare this presentation, and even yesterday, you know, thinking about today and our birthday coming up and reflecting on where we've been, there were tough moments thinking about all of the loved ones that our community has lost. And tonight, we will present the Archie Bickley Award, and I'm sorry that's cut off. We'll present the Archie Bickley Award. We started this award in 2018 after Archie Bickley passed away. Archie Bickley was a steadfast supporter. He was here even after he had chemo treatments that day. once he was no longer able to drive himself to and from chemo, he would have someone bring him to these meetings. We used to meet every month, and for about 4 years, we met twice a month, and Archie was there. I want to play a video here so that you can understand a little bit more about Archie's relationship to this site. But I'll tell you, he's from Highlands, he lived here all his life, and he was an avid outdoorsman. He loved to fish, he loved to hunt. One of the last times I saw him, he showed me a picture of a halibut he caught on his fishing trip that was bigger than he was. And I mean, Archie was a big guy, so this was a massive, massive fish he was very proud of. An avid fisherman, and just riddled with cancer.
82 years old. I have brain cancer, lung cancer, skin cancer, liver cancer. I made a ton of fish. Nobody ever said don't eat the fish. It was just too recent. And I could be a poster child for this group. You know, because this is one of the greatest fishing spots in the world. And we can't fish there. So I don't want to say anything that I live in my own life. I'm not sure that's what caused my problems, but I do have the problem. Thank you.
He said he should be the poster boy for this organization, if you didn't hear that. And anybody with that much cancer, he was a brave guy to say that.
Yeah, thank you. And I do apologize about the volume. Rachel, we're getting new speakers. We talked about this. We were like, are they loud enough? We thought they would be. We're getting new speakers, y'all. Tonight, we are going to start with replacing an award that we presented a community member with in 2018. We presented Greg Moss with the Archie Bickley Award, and this award goes to community members, elected officials, government agency people, and even press over the years who have done an outstanding job at supporting these efforts in our communities, those who go above and beyond. I call Greg my ace and my eagle eyes. He is our eagle eyes in the Channelview River bottom. He lets us know when something's going on. I'll give you a story of, one, the importance of Greg, but also local knowledge and local eyes. One time there was a bobcat, construction equipment on the northern pit. They were doing construction and didn't time it right with the tides for that day. And the tide came in and submerged the bobcat. Greg called me and he said, Jackie, there's a plume of oil coming out of the bobcat, or going into the river. This thing's sinking out there with the tide coming in. What's going on? So I called the EPA, and they said, they're in Dallas, and they said no. Well, first they said, we'll check into it. They called the remedial contractor. They said, no, everything's fine. EPA called me back very quickly and said, everything's fine, Jackie. No, that's not going on. Called Greg. I said, Greg, get in your car. And back then, I-10 wasn't as dangerous as it is today. I said, get in your car, grab your neighbor, drive over the river. I need a picture. Got a picture, sent it to the EPA, and they immediately took care of it. But things like that, where we have middlemen in this process, like the EPA, if you will, the importance of local knowledge is everything. And unfortunately, Greg lost his home recently to arson. And one of the things that he lost was his Archie Bickley Award. So Greg, please come accept your new Archie Bickley Award.
Can you turn this way? Do you want to stay in front? Your front? Okay. All right. We'll grab some pictures in a minute. Okay? There we go. All right.
Thank you, Greg. All right, now our next two Archie Bickley Award recipients have been outstanding for our local communities. First, Carolyn Stone is the founder of Channelview Health and Improvement Coalition, or CHIC. And Carolyn, I'm going to steal your story. She said, you know, I came to your meetings, Jackie, and I saw what you were doing. And I thought, we need something like that on the other side of the river. But I'll tell you, you go above and beyond. I have a narrow focus. Carolyn and her group, they clean up the roadways in Channelview, they decorate the roadways, they trim the trees, they are involved in a variety of pollution and nuisance issues. I mean, she really just jumped in and really has the heart that has led her to do so much service in her community. And I thought that there's really, the Archie Bickley Award is really fitting for Carolyn's outstanding service. Please come receive your award.
Thank you.
All right, and the next award recipient is Commissioner Tom Ramsey. And he is actually the first elected official to receive the award. We have given it previously to the EPA project manager, but the first elected official. And I've worked with a lot of elected officials over my career, and you know a good one when you meet one. And when I walked in and I met Commissioner Ramsey, I knew right away that he was a good guy and that he was going to help our community. And he has not only worked with us here in the communities around the San Jacinto site, but he's also worked with us in the communities in Northwest Harris County around the Jones Road Superfund site. And he's not afraid to take a stance and just stand up for what's right. The people need a clean environment, clean drinking water, and he's really championed the communities in these two areas. And so for your outstanding support and leadership, we award you Commissioner Ramsey.
And let's get them all back up.
Yes, yes, and not fast. Would you like to make a statement?
Of course. I won't be long. I have never met anyone more committed than Jackie. When Jackie called, fine, I'm dropping whatever I'm working on, and we're going to deal with it. I got my degree in environmental engineering from Texas A&M in 1974. So I have looked at this issue, I guess, with a engineering set of eyes. But everything that Jackie is aware of and is focused on, she's making a real difference. So we don't get a difference maker that often.
That's right.
And when you have someone that not only has a story, Jackie's got a really good story, but she also has the education. She could be doing environmental work all over the world. Jackie's chose to do something where she feels she can make a big difference, and she can. And then there's the passion part of it. So when you see those three, it's hard not to get involved, particularly when issues are so blaring and staring you in the face. So looking forward to working with her and you all as we get the EPA off their carcass and we get the responsible parties living up to their name, responsible parties, and get some, I think progress is being made. The other thing I would say, and I'll quit talking, is I feel I'm 72 years old. It's just such a cool thing to hand a baton to the next generation. Well, she may be 2 generations, but anyway, the next generation. That's what you want. You don't want something to stop. There's been progress made. I've told stories about, I sampled the Houston Ship Channel in 1972. They were evaluating the quality of the water in it. In 1972, at 610 in the Turney Basin, the ship channel was a dead body of water. You know why? Because in 1972, the city of Houston was dumping raw sewage into the ship channel. And so when you know these things and you see the progress has been made, but we know better than to leave waste pits sitting there in the eye of the barges, the next storm that happens. Or here's the other one, and I'll be quiet on this one. They're going to rebuild I-10. That's in the works. There is no way, believe me, I'm a civil engineer that's worked on a few bridges. There's absolutely no way you can construct a new bridge without first taking out the Superfund side. So maybe that's in the works, and finally will be helpful and get things done. Thank you, Jackie, for what you do. Thank you for what you're gonna do.
So, award recipients, we can take a photo.
Yeah.
Chick on that side, Leo on that side.
That's good. That's perfect. All right, everybody this direction. Count of 3, 2, 1. One more. Okay.
Look this way, please. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Yeah, I have to. Angle view all the time.
All right, now,
Jackie, can I say one thing about Commissioner Ramsey?
sure.
So, we have met a lot of politicians and a lot of EPA, pollution control, health department, but we have never met a commissioner or politician that actually did what he said. He's never dismissed us. He's never said, yeah, okay, and put us off, and then just didn't do anything about it like the rest of them. He actually puts his money where his mouth is, and I will vote for him over and over. I'm just saying, he is by far the greatest commissioner I've ever met. So I had to give him those kudos.
Couldn't agree more. All right, y'all, I have some San Jacinto River Waste Pit specific updates for you tonight, and then some updates on a couple of the other activities going on. So for the northern waste pit, this one right here. So we've got the northern waste pit and we have the southern waste pit. For the northern waste pit, this is the one that's about 70% or so submerged in the river. For the northern waste pit, we've been waiting to hear from the EPA on whether or not they are going to take over the process. They sent a letter called a notice of takeover to the parties responsible several months ago. And the responsible parties responded, the EPA made a decision, and now we're waiting to hear what that decision is. I tell you, I read the response from the responsible parties, and it is a plan to make a plan. It does not satisfy what the EPA asked them to do. They say, section by section, we will do that. Well, they've been telling us they will do that for many, many years. So we are waiting anxiously for this announcement because this is a big deal. The EPA taking over a Superfund site is not something they weigh lightly. And it's a very big decision that I know EPA headquarters in Washington, D.C. has been involved in. As soon as we find something out, the community will know about it. And I hope that it is any day now. For the southern waste pit, it has been remediated as designated in the record of decision. So over 207,000 cubic yards of contaminated material has been removed and the land has been backfilled. They only went down to 10 feet. So that's the catch we're going to talk about a little bit more. Right now, the institutional controls for the site are being negotiated between the EPA and the responsible parties. Massive team of lawyers. The contractors are involved in these conversations as well. And why this is an important thing for y'all to know about. The institutional controls outline responsibilities and actions in perpetuity. Well, I-10 bridge, right? So right now, here's I-10, here's the northern side, and I'm sorry this is fuzzy. I was not able to find a better text graphic. So this is the southern pit. Everywhere in orange has been remediated down to 10 feet. Why 10 feet? Well, 10 feet was based on a hypothetical scenario that a construction worker would never dig deeper than 10 feet. Why? Because this is an industrial parcel of land. It's not in the river like this one up here. So based on this hypothetical scenario, they decided to only go down 10 feet. The EPA has never required testing below 10 feet. Anybody who lived here back then, or knows somebody who lived here back then in the 60s when this was created, knows how that site was built. And it was built a lot deeper than 10 feet, and around 8 or 10 feet they put backfill. Now granted, a lot of toxic material was hauled off from this site, but it's believed that they have just struck the tip of the iceberg and that there's much more waste there. So we've been asking the EPA to require testing below 10 feet. What are you afraid of? You've already got all the boards, you've already, go test. And they have yet to require testing below 10 feet. So I spoke with, actually here recently, the project manager for the bridge replacement from TxDOT. And I said, hey, we could be allies in this. Your crews could very well come into very toxic chemicals when they bore down for this bridge replacement, especially now that the design has shifted south. It's right there. That's bridge, that's toxic waste. And I said, how deep are you guys going to go there at the southern side? She said, 100 feet. We're going to bore down 100 feet. And I said, 90 of that's never been tested. And I said, can you ask the EPA? You meet with them, can you ask them to test? We have a responsible party in the Superfund process. Can you ask that they test? And she said, I'm not worried about it. Yep, that's the response I got. She said, we have a hazards team that comes out on site when we bore near a Superfund site. She said, I've worked with many Superfund sites in my career. I said, so who pays for that? We went back and forth a little bit, and ultimately I said, it's the taxpayer. It's the taxpayer who pays for that hazards team. And should those workers come into in contact with contaminated material, they're not going to be protected, and it could be releasing contaminants yet again into the environment. So why wouldn't we stand together right now to make sure that this is handled appropriately before your crew is out there boring 100 feet down by a toxic waste site? We couldn't come to agreements, that was clear, so I went on my way. So we have a petition tonight, and it's to the EPA. We are asking, again, and still, for them to require testing as part of the Superfund process down below 10 feet. We don't want to wait until this site is reviewed in 5 years. We want it done now, and there's no reason why it can't be done now. We also need them to know and remember that we care about this issue as they're negotiating the institutional controls at this site. Should the TxDOT project or anything incur this waste in the future, we want them to think about that. This is not just an industrial area. So many people love this river. So I'll have my team bring around the petitions. I hope that you will consider signing the petitions. We will send them to the EPA. This is an incredibly important fight that we've been taking on, and as I mentioned, after the record of decision and in the pandemic, a lot of people stopped coming to our meetings because they thought it was getting taken care of, right? And a lot of people think, oh great, the southern site's cleaned up. Hey, we've made a lot of progress, but we still have a lot more to go. So I encourage you all to continue your engagement and talk with your neighbors. The local fish consumption advisory has been updated. So I wanted to bring the newest information to you all. So the fish consumption advisory, again, and we're talking about the localized issue right here, the waste pits. Dioxin and PCBs are the problem in our local seafood on the waterways that you see here. The advisory, however, was that men or women not of the reproductive age were okay by state standards to consume 1 meal of local seafood a month, 8-ounce fillet of fish or crab or oysters. Now, it's not to consume any seafood. Crabs, oysters, any fish species, and so they've upgraded it. It's not an enforceable ban still, but the advisory is to not consume any local seafood. So now, we have a river that I'd say probably 95% of us in here swam in, boated on, ATV'd in the muddy banks, and probably most of us don't swim in it anymore. And now they're saying don't even eat any of it. We got to keep pushing forward to get the source of this waste out of there. Once the source of the waste at similar Superfund sites has been removed, within 5 to 15 years, the fish had replenished their tissue and were safe to eat. So we can get there and we can work towards a fishable river again. One other major item that we're working on is an update to the cancer assessment. Texas Department of State Health Services is doing the assessment right now. So many of you have signed letters and petitions and asks to Texas Department of State Health Services over the years and filled out health surveys. So thank you all for your support. The agency is conducting the study. It might be smaller than this study area. So this was the area they studied almost 10 years ago by now. The site's right here. We're just up here in Highlands. And all of this is broken into census tracts. This is Lake Houston. All the census tracts in red have at least one abnormal type of cancer. Most of them have more than one. And we've asked Department of State Health Services to study the area again, study the same types of cancers they did before, but then study additional types of cancer that we've received concern from the community. So we're expecting that within 3 to 6 months. All right, so how you can help, you sign the petition, and this QR code here you also have on the agenda. You can scan the QR code and sign up for our email list. A lot of important stuff going on, and you can mark on there if you only want San Jacinto related information. And one of the other ways is, we are a nonprofit, so you can certainly donate to Thea. But today I ask that you consider making a donation to the GoFundMe that I personally started for Greg, for him losing his home and starting over again. So that QR code is on your agenda, and just noting that I started that it wasn't Thea per se, that started a GoFundMe for somebody, but I just thought everything Greg has given to his community, I wanted to start that for him. All right, any questions? Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
You talked about the truck that went off the I-10 River Bridge and
Uh-huh.
brought out hazmat and everything. But I want to talk about the roads, septic systems that we're spraying these dioxins water on our property. You know, chlorine's not gonna kill dioxin, the sunlight's not gonna kill it. So we're basically spraying this great water, contaminated water, making cancer clusters of our own property. And nobody said a word, anything about that. I think there needs to be some type of legislation so that they don't spray this stuff on top of our water and put it back underground. Of course, we still got it, but it's not where our children are running through it, riding a bicycle or whatever.
You have a really great point. She's commenting on the septic systems that spray over the land, and if it's, you know, contaminated water being used in the household, what that effect that can have on the land. And we have the same concerns in one of the other communities we work in, but their chemicals turn into vapors, whereas dioxin, you know, is going to stick there in the sediment wherever it lands,
Right.
likely for a very long time, really, until it's picked up and moved again. You know, the EPA estimated that if the waste pits stayed in the river, that they would remain toxic for over 750 more years. But the EPA estimated that. So these are very persistent particles, and you raise a really good point. I'll definitely go back and talk with some of our friends at Pollution Control and some experts to see if they've worked with other communities that have experienced this or what the thoughts are. I know the soil sampling didn't go too far out from the site.
Right.
She lives pretty close to the site.
Yeah, I think so. We're
She
about
lives across the street from the site.
Yeah.
Yeah, we live less than 4 miles from it.
We can see it, you know, we can stand up
From
on
their
that window.
window.
And another thing, there's a fuel max that just put in up there, and they have they just drilled a well. They just drilled the well at the fuel max, and everybody's going by drinking the water and the ice that's all coming from it, and they don't even know that they're catching this from the store. And in the back, they got aerobic systems that's spraying out, running down into our yard. And the $27 million that Texas got from Waste Management, they gave $9 million of it to Baytown to fix their parks and stuff. Most of their parks and stuff I looked into are around the water. So then they're gonna have to pay them $15 million to get rid of the parks. You know, I don't see the help in it. And the people fishing that don't know, they tell them not to fish, but they don't know that they're not supposed to eat the fish.
Right,
You know, and then they go about their business, and then all of a sudden they come up with something, they don't know what it's come from.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we've talked about is better signage, and signage that actually means something to the people that see it. The signage that's there right now is not good. It's not very helpful to most people. That's interesting though about the fuel max, and I wonder if that water would be regulated.
It wasn't even tested.
No.
They come out there, drill the well. There's another place at 109 that they just drilled the well. And you know, these people are not knowing that they're drilling into toxic water. They're getting stuff out of the water that they don't even know.
I know the testing that's been done historically showed a lower level of dioxin in water in that area, but a low dose, you know, can surely add up.
Right, over time.
Yeah.
And two, if you don't register your well, then you don't know the information that comes through about your well. If the EPA or Pollution Control wants to test your well, they won't know you have one because it's not registered. So people that just put in a well, I know my ranch was not registered, and I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't know if they registered the one down there for the fuel max or not, because it was a really fly-by-night construction.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
I had to step in
Yeah,
a few times myself because they let the detention pond fill up, and the school was fixing to start. Bus stopped right on the corner. I had to call the police to get them to stop and fix it before the school year started.
This is more a question to be looked at than an answer at this point. But I believe some of the areas near here have municipal setting designations or something similar to limit the ability to put in new wells. in some of this area where they know they have some groundwater contamination. And that's what's, you've heard Jackie refer to institutional controls. You know, what is that? That can be things such as saying, this is an area where there should not be new wells drilled. But if people aren't following the appropriate rules and policies, they're not looking that up. And so I don't know exactly where this is located, and I don't know where the designated areas might be, but I do think that is something to follow through on maybe before our next meeting.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we have any other questions or comments, concerns? Sure, go for it. We can wrap up. Okay.
Really quickly, I just want to give some praise to my daughter for the work that she's done. She's always busy praising everybody else, giving awards to everybody else. I have a little card that I'm going to give her, but this is what I wrote. Jackie is a woman who is saving lives and communities and the earth itself. She also brings knowledge that the EPA hopes slips right under your noses. She talks the truth about the facts and the science. She is fierce and doesn't settle or stop working. Sometimes she's even working on holidays, like when a truck went off the bridge and different things have happened, we've had to be out here on holidays. So she is relentless and she works hard for you guys, and it has truly taken a village. Thank you for signing all of the things that we ask you to sign that we can send in. If it was just her and I, like in the old days with Sarah and Jeanette, it was hard to get anywhere. But when you get the entire community on board, it really makes a difference, and we're getting things done in record time. So please, talk to your neighbors and your friends and let them know this is an important meeting to attend. So, hats off for Jackie. I'm going to ask for a round of applause for this wonderful woman.
Well, y'all see where I get it from. Thank you all again for being here tonight. I hope to see you at our next meeting. Good evening.